The Factor Fiction column a couple weeks ago and was asked about that card. I think that it is reasonably likely this card gets banned. I think it is way out of bounds.
I think it's non-zero.
But, the question isn't about how powerful the card is. It's about how powerful the decks are. And can you fill out the other 56 slots with a deck that's powerful and can function in the absence of Wilderness Reclamation?
Todd Anderson on your right, Jimmy Brandein on your left. Round number 1 about to be underway here from Indianapolis. We got a mountain here for Jimmy. A Steam Vents will enter the battlefield tapped here for Todd. Both players look like they have kept 7 cards. For Jimmy now, he is going to play a copy of Rootbound Crag and just pass the turn back. So not a very quick start here for the Gruul aggro deck. For Todd, it's not a fast start either. It'll be a Steam Vents, and a Lightning Strike is going to go upstairs here for Jimmy. A card that I think we're going to see a lot this weekend between mono red and any red-based strategy. Seems to be a little bit better right now than Lava Coil.
Yes. I think being instant speed is a big deal against the red decks because there's a lot of haste, and you need to reach against the control decks too. Lava Coil will certainly be present also, but I think we're going to see a lot more Lightning Strikes than Lightning Coils.
It was a Gruul Spellbreaker there for Jimmy that he came across with for 3. And then for Anderson, he missed his 3rd land drop, but he's just drawn a Hinterland Harbor, and now to be a Growth Spiral to hopefully find another land. He'll play an Opt and dig a little bit deeper, it looks like. Maybe he'll wait. He's actually going to wait. It'll be a shock that goes upstairs from Jimmy. Jimmy's card on the battlefield right now is Growth Guardian Champion. Excuse me, make sure I get this right. Growth Chamber Guardian. Pardon me. That one's a mouthful. And now here's a Merfolk Branchwalker. So some new cards already here. Branchwalker will explore. Rekindling Phoenix is the reveal. We'll see what Jimmy wants to do with that.
I'd be surprised if that one was good enough.
And it's going to go right to the graveyard from the Explore trigger. So for Jimmy, again, Growth Chamber Guardian is going to come across here for 2. Merfolk Branchwalker is a 3-2, and now Anderson will opt. So top card will become the bottom one. Sulphur Falls is the draw. Now Todd, does he have Wilderness Reclamation? This is where it begins. All right. Trigger, untap the lands. He's behind right now, Patrick, so he's got some catching up to do.
Yes, but Gruul aggro is so unlikely to be able to interact with this card game 1 that Todd's going to be able to do his thing. Now he fell behind, missed some land drops, it's already fairly low. Is he going to have enough time here?
Well, there's a big dragon in Skargan Hellkite, so the pressure is on. I imagine that's going to resolve. Anderson's life total is 10. This would be an attack for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 now. Anderson might end this turn at 1. Now, he's got his namesake enchantment on the battlefield. It took him a little while to get there, so now the question is can he take advantage of the fact that he's gotten it a little late to the party here?
And this is where we're going to see, the benefits of having kind of the Fog and Nexus of Fate style builds. Decks that can only interact with you by trying to run you out of the game don't really have a whole lot of recourse against that.
It'll be a radical idea here from Todd. He's picked up another copy of Wilderness Reclamation. Not going to be helpful. Here comes the attack. Anderson's going to fall down to 1. The Hellkite, the Guardian, and the Branchwalker come across. Here's a Growth Spiral here for Todd. He's going to play a Mountain on his end step. He will untap and draw. Let's see what he can do. Now he's drawn a copy of Explosion Expansion. This is one of his favorite cards in the format, and this is kind of the win condition of the deck. But we're looking at a battlefield, and it's got 3 different creatures, and Todd's at 1, so he could easily be burned out here.
Yes. Even if Anderson has a way to interact with all 3 threats, he's in a ton of trouble. And his deck's not really that well suited to kill 3 things at once, though. Looks like Todd's going to give it the old college try.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's going to float some mana, and now he will cast a copy of Explosion. Draw a couple of cards. Those don't look like those are going to kill the other creatures, and that is going to do it. So Jimmy's going to win game number 1 here over Todd, as Todd stumbled and fumbled just a little bit there with his lands, and that's all it took for the aggro deck to win. And that seems like, to me, Patrick, could be the common story, right? If these Wilderness Reclamation decks miss their mana for whatever reason playing against an aggro deck, that could just be it.
It can, and particularly with the way that Anderson's built his deck, where he doesn't have Fogs and Nexus of Fate, when he falls behind like that, he's got to sort of try to answer everything individually, and that's a hard thing to do against a bunch of haste creatures, against creatures of that size, and at the risk of getting burned out as well.
Well, we're going to go over sideboards here. We're going to start with Todd Anderson. Ignore the Engineered Explosives and Grim Lavamancers that are on the right-hand side. Those are cards that Todd would play.
And wouldn't bring them in even if he had them.
That's fair. That's fair. 4 copies of Negate, 3 Crushing Canopies, 3 Niv Mizzet, Parun, 3 Murmuring Mystic, and 2 Lava Coil. He didn't see a ton But I think he's got the idea of, okay, my opponent is playing some sort of Gruul aggro deck, and so you can kind of lump them into what they could possibly be doing.
Yeah, I mean, the Lava Coils are pretty easy to bring in, and I could see the Murmuring Mystics and Niv Mizzets as well. Not really a whole lot to negate in this matchup.
For Jimmy, I'm looking at 4 Wild Growth Walkers, 4 Lava Coils, 4 Cinder Vines, 2 Vivian Reed, and a Carnage Tyrant. So not a ton to bring in, at least in my opinion.
Well, the Cinder Vine seems nice.
I guess if you really want to kill Wilderness Reclamation, which I guess you probably have to.
And it's also not that bad in the spots where they don't have Wilderness Reclamation. I think that's part of the reason that card is so good. There's some matchups where your opponent has, 4 enchantments or 4 artifacts that really matter. Are you going to be bringing in disenchants against them? And if it lines up the right way, great. And if it doesn't, that can be really bad for you. Cinder Vines, the floor is really high because that card is going to be good against Todd just on the kind of the ongoing text on it. And it happens to also kill Anderson's namesake enchantment.
Well, they are shuffling up, getting ready here for game number 2. Todd will be on the play, and it is Ravnica Allegiance release weekend. So, of course, I think it's in your best interest to do some ordering of Ravnica Allegiance cards. You can order today over at go.starcitygames.com/RNA. And look at the little graphic here. The MSRP, that's a lot.
That is a lot. You get a discount pretty deep there. If you're a SCG Premium member, that price goes down even further. So you can go to the website, read all the sweet content, and then purchase a box to start building some decks over at go.starcitygames.com/RNA.
That's just all wins.
All wins.
A little bit cheaper. You get 5% discount.
More information.
You get more information to build your decks.
Coming and going. Offense, defense. Plays both sides of the ball.
I don't know if we're going to be able to stay open with this.
I don't know how we do it.
Idea, but
don't know how we do it.
But I would say that if you do order a box, we can stay open. Go.starcitygames.com/RNA for more information.
Plus the token. We'll get to that later.
Oh, yeah, the token.
That's $5 or more.
Whew.
Unfortunately, even with the discounted version of that, you had to buy it all in one chunk. You can't break it down into 19 discrete orders of $5 a piece.
And
so
really, who would do such a thing?
Right.
Is the thing, really.
But you still get the one.
That's true.
So there you go.
That's true. Todd Anderson going to be on the play here for game number 2 against Jimmy Brandein. I got Team of Reclamation against Gruul aggro, and that could be the story of how this deck loses, right? I've got my Wilderness Reclamation in my hand. I got Chemister Insights, but those cards all cost 4 mana. And it's kind of tough now that if they stumble and fumble, as powerful as Wilderness Reclamation is, it didn't win that game.
No, and Anderson's build here is not really that great at playing catch up against a bunch of creatures. That's the to go back to what we've been talking about. The upside of the Nexus of Fate and Fog sort of style is once you're up and running, creatures are kind of locked out of the game. And Anderson's build is not like that. He's trying to be able to hang around more with the control decks, have more just card drawing and normal cards so he can function in games without Wilderness Reclamation. But that's going to be a tax here.
Well, there is Cinder Vines. Todd has taken a look. We're going to do the exact same thing. You mentioned during sideboarding that this might be a useful card for Jimmy to have in the deck, and it is in the deck after sideboard.
And this card
is a new powerful card.
This is an extremely powerful card. Full stop.
And now this is an extremely powerful creature here in Growth Chamber Guardian. We've already seen the 2/2. Let's take a look at the enchantment. Now, whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, Cindervine deals 1 damage to that player. You can pay 1 and sacrifice Cindervines to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Cindervines deals 2 damage to that permanent's controller. However, it appears that Todd did have the answer for the enchantment, so we continue play. But this does seem like to me, Patrick, a card that he has to answer to be able to win the game.
Definitely. Well, or he's got to try to overpower Brandein some other way, but that's really hard to do in the face of the Pyrostatic Pillar text as well.
It'll be a Rekindling Phoenix here for Jimmy. Todd is going to respond by playing a Chemister's Insight. Now, Todd's life total as we work ourselves into turn number 5 here, as there's a Lava Coil to take care of the Phoenix for good and a Shock to take care of the Guardian. This is where he wants to be.
Yes.
This is much better than the first game.
No pressure, high life total.
Stomping Ground's going to enter the battlefield tapped. There is the Skargan Hellkite. That's going to be coming across here for 4 points of damage. This is a card that Brian Gottlieb was pretty fond of early on during preview season. That's getting a little bit of play right now. This is a better card than that one, though.
Well, I mean, when they're both on the table, sure. But one's cheaper. One's 1 color instead of having some prohibitive mana.
Yeah.
But yeah, Niv Mizzet's better.
I think it's a little better. Niv Mizzet Perun is now here. Todd may be shifting his game plan away from Reclamation and more towards, I don't know, let's do a little teamer action, maybe a little mid-rangey.
Well, it's hard for Brandein to kind of handle all the game plans, because he's got to be able to beat Wilderness and Reclamation, plus a bunch of spells. And he's also got to be able to beat these creatures that are each individually capable of winning the game. And it's asking a lot of Brandein to be able to answer all those cards and put on enough pressure so Todd doesn't bury him with a bunch of card drawing.
Now, Todd's play, you may have noticed, is he said, all right, Skargan Hellcat, I'll block. Do your worst. And now Jimmy had to use a lightning strike in combination with the dragon to take care of Niv Mizzet, which you have to kill. You can't let Todd untap with that. So now he's got another copy of Growth Chamber Guardian. Todd says, I'll play a Murmuring Mystic. Here's a Growth Spiral. I'll be making a little flyer. Picked up a copy of Lava Coil, passed the turn back. There is Growth Spiral. Draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. This is a powerful addition for all Simic-based strategies, like the one that Todd is playing here this weekend. But keep in mind the differences between this game and the last one. Anderson, at the early stages of the game, he missed his land drops. Wilderness Reclamation could not catch him back up. Now he's sitting at 13. Jimmy's at 17. Jimmy's life total doesn't really matter. Todd's happy to play a longer game. But now Todd says, I'll chump block with the token. Let's keep playing Magic. The longer we go, the better it is for me and my deck.
And Anderson's leftovers in hand appear to be Lava Coils, Expansion Explosion, and another copy of Murmuring Mystic. So he's at a high life total, and his leftovers are not shabby.
Growth Chamber Guardian is going to adapt. So we are going to be searching for another one of these. This is a card I think we're going to see quite a bit of, throughout Standard. This one is just a straightforward, just a good card, right? There's not a lot to it. It's just good.
I think this one is really overrated, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
And you can sort of generically put it into a variety of decks. So whatever, it'll be all over the place. But I don't think Standard is lined up in such a way where, you're just going to do this turn after turn and be able to beat someone. But it's not a bad card. The floor is high, and the ceiling is also high.
Todd is transitioning nicely here. He's got another copy of Murmuring Mystic. Now he'll play a copy of Lava Coil. Lava Coil will take care of a Growth Chamber Guardian, and now he's got some tokens on the battlefield. Obviously, Growth Chamber Guardian doesn't have Trample. The biggest it's going to get is a 4/4, so life is good here for Todd Anderson, as he's done a nice job of stabilizing. And you mentioned earlier, there is that Expansion Explosion hiding in hand. As here comes the 4/4, Todd is going to block. And Jimmy says, no more. I can't really beat what's going on.
Love the concession there.
Yeah,
maybe a little early.
Yep.
But Jimmy knows he's not coming back from that spot.
Now, here's an interesting question for you as we take a look at the sideboards here. You saw Todd use Crushing Canopy to take care of the Cinder Vines. That also gives him some cover against the Dragon, right? Do you think Todd still has Wilderness Reclamation in his deck?
Probably.
This is something that people haven't talked
But maybe
about.
not.
Is I can just sideboard it out, because you have to bring in, if I'm an opponent, I have to bring in something to kill that card, right, because it's so powerful. And it wouldn't surprise me if Todd just goes, hey, I'm bringing in Niv Mizzet and Murmuring Mystic and Crushing Canopies, and I don't need to do this Reclamation stuff. My deck is good enough without it.
Yeah, he can just play kind of a regular, good removal spell, good card drawing, good creature type of strategy here. You can also go down to like 2 copies. You don't need to go, it doesn't need to be a 4-0 type of thing either.
Because if I take a look at the sideboard, if we take a look at just the cards he cast, Canopy, Niv Mizzet, Murmuring Mystic, Lava Coil, if he brought in 3, 6, 9, 11 cards, does he have 11 cards to sideboard out? Maybe yes, maybe no.
Well, if you want to, you can bail on Primal Amulet and Wilderness Reclamation, and then you are basically disenchant proof. So that's a fine way to do it.
I think that's totally in play. I think it's totally in play that Todd just says, I don't need this. You think I need it, but I don't. But that being said, Todd's deck is still very spell-based, so he's got to have an answer to Cinder Vines.
Right. He's not going to want to play through the static text on that card.
Yeah.
So even if he bailed on all of his enchantments and artifacts, he still wants a few answers.
Well, these players are going to shuffle up for game number 3. This match is moving pretty quickly, but don't worry, we'll have another match to bring you after this one, given our new time-shifted technology. Speaking of technology, you know where you can pick up some new technology?
Hit me with it.
I'm talking about the sale. We got all sorts of technology on this one. Go.starcitygames.com/sale. Unfortunately, you know all 4 of these cards, so I can't make you name the cards.
Yes, but we are now in a post-category world. We simply have Magic the Gathering cards and sometimes other things on sale. New cards will go on sale every week, same time, Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so make sure to be checking back. But right now, deep discounts on Dragon Soul Summit, Fork, Urza's Mine, and Japanese Deranged Hermits, among other cards, I assume. Over at go.starcitygames.com/sale.
Beautifully done. Beautifully done on the promotional work there, partner.
2019, I'm leaning right in.
Firing right in. I'm very, very proud of you.
New Year, same me.
Yeah. Game number 3 about to be underway here between Jimmy and Todd. Gruel Aggro will be on the play. They'll be given the green light. It'll be a stomping ground that enters the battlefield tapped here for Jimmy. Steve Vance enters the battlefield tapped here for Todd. Now, one thing to note is Jimmy hasn't gotten off to the fastest of starts. You know, this isn't really a one-drop, two-drop deck. It does actually not have copies of Llanowar Elf.
Yep.
A little surprising.
Well, how many green sources do you have that come into play untapped on turn 1? 13?
Yeah, I'm looking at 13.
That's cutting it a little tight for Llanowar Elves.
It's a goblin. This is Wartar Goblin. A 2/2 goblin for red and a green that has Riot, and you can, of course, give it a +1/+1 counter, give it haste in this instant, +1/+1 counter, so it's now a 3/3. Todd will play Opt. He's got to find an answer to that Cinder Vines as he falls down to 19. Expansion Explosion, the draw.
Brandein doing a very sharp job there playing around Shock. Very tempting to just try to get in your haste creature while you can, but
a little bit of patience, a little bit bigger. Do like that. For those of you wondering what's going on with Jimmy's deck, again, this is mostly just creatures and then 4 shocks and 4 lightning strikes and some sideboard cards. There's a second copy of Cinder Vines. This could be bad news for Anderson's deck. Now, he's got a Crushing Canopy for the first one, so he is working on solving the problem. But again, this is what I like about Todd's deck is the switch to maybe going into Mizzet to overcome this. This time, Jimmy's going to go to haste with the Goblin, and Todd is going to take 5.
Really great sequencing here. Now with the shields down on Shock, Brandein can get in his 2 points guaranteed. And he's actually fine if Todd untaps and shocks it, because he's not as vulnerable to a sweeper that way, and he gets a point from the Cinder Vines.
Well, we were unsure if Anderson still left in copies of Wilderness Reclamation. He's at least got one. As he'll play that, he'll untap all of his lands. He's got another copy of Crushing Canopy. So he's out from underneath that. There's a shock to take care of the Goblin. Now for Jimmy, he better have a good follow-up or it's bad news bears.
Yeah, this is his last turn to get in a really good shot here. You would love to have seen a dragon or some such. We'll see if he's got any burn or any other way to close this game out.
This better be good, whatever this play is. Rekindling Phoenix could be good. We'll see what Anderson can do on this turn. We know this deck is explosive, pardon the pun, as he does have a copy of Expansion Explosion in hand. Todd is at 8. He's dealt with both the Cinder Vines, but it looks like right now his hand is very heavy on lands and relying on that explosion expansion. He'll play a Stomping Ground tapped. He does have a copy of Murmuring Mystic in hand. He's going to do a little bit of floating of mana. Now he'll untap that mana due to the Wilderness Reclamation trigger, and it looks like it's going to be an Expansion Explosion for a whole bunch on that Goblin. Todd's going to draw a whole bunch of cards. 3, 4, 5. No answer to the Rekindling Phoenix yet. Anderson could die this turn. All it takes is a big dragon or a couple of burn spells. Anderson at 8, a theoretical 4 because of the Rekindling Phoenix. Does he make it out of the turn alive? That is a Gruel Spellbreaker. That's going to bring him down to 1. He is alive.
But he's not really that close to winning the game by appearances here and has to fade a lot of draws. Also, it doesn't look like he really drew all that much of impact. Hand very heavy on lands right now.
Well, it's time to see what this deck can do. Can it come back from a dire situation? This is about as low as you can go.
It is.
It's about as low as you can go. Murmuring Mystic, Opt, trigger, make a flyer, that will block the Phoenix. Opt, the top card is going to go to the bottom as the Sulphur Falls. Anderson needs a good one. He picked up a copy of Expansion Explosion. That is a pretty good one. Has he played a land yet for the turn? I do not believe that he has. So what comes next here for Todd Anderson?
Yeah, I think there's the question here is basically, do you want an Expansion Expulsion to try to kill something, keep your head above water, or do you want to maybe try to just chump block out of this turn and set up a lethal one with the second Wilderness Reclamation in his hand all in one turn?
Well, he's going to do Expansion Explosion again. Says Gruel Spellbreaker, you got to die. Trigger, make a token. He's hoping to fade burn spells here, folks, as he's going to draw a whole bunch of cards. Another copy of Expansion Explosion, picked up a copy of Shock. Is it a Shock or a Lightning Strike for Jimmy? Big draw step here as Todd has the discard. It's a Mountain, 2 of those in hand, I believe. So Todd is faded once. Pretty easy block there. There's a land, pass the turn back. You can tell Todd needs to get this game over with quickly as Jimmy is at 20. Picked up a copy of Stomping Ground, not exactly what the doctor ordered. Don't think Todd has any ways to gain life in this spot.
No, but keep in mind, if with the second Wilderness Reclamation in hand, it may seem like he's a long way away from being able to win this game. But if he has a second copy, just one more Expansion Expulsion, he can do that for 20 points of damage. It's not that hard.
You see the Shock in hand, the other copy of Wilderness Reclamation, as you did mention, and then that copy of Expansion Explosion, his third one of the game. For right now, Todd isn't really worried about creatures. It's those 4 Lightning Strikes and those 4 Shocks and maybe additional copies of Cinder Vines that he has to worry about. He's already taken care of 2 copies of Cinder Vines with his Crushing Canopies. There are 2 more in the sideboard here for Jimmy. So Todd is doing a little bit of planning. Is it time for another copy of Wilderness Reclamation? Not sure. But it looks like he's tapping mana and leaning that way. He'll go with another copy of Murmuring Mystic. Does he want to maybe try to sneak in a little point here? It looks like he's thinking about it. He will come in for 1.
The points here maybe shave off the requirements for being able to generate lethal with Expansion Expulsion. So getting in those little chip shots does actually matter.
He'll untap all the lands and pass the turn back. Jimmy, is it a burn spell? Jimmy, is it a burn spell? It's an attack. It's an easy block for Todd. That's a Stomping Ground. His other card, I believe, is a Mountain. Shock you. Making 2 flyers now as Anderson. He's looking to close this one out quickly. As now he will untap. It looks like he has faded some draw steps here. Anderson will draw. He's picked up a copy of Growth Spiral. Unclear how good that is in this particular situation. He'll say, I'll come across for 4. Jimmy's going to fall down to 13. Steam Vents one on the battlefield tapped. It's a Wilderness Reclamation. Is this enough to fireball him out right now?
I believe
there
so.
are 2 triggers. He'll float 3. Untap. Reclamations do work well in tandem. So how about a little bit more? And now untap. How about a little bit more?
Counting 19 mana in the pool.
Not bad. Fireball! Purdue-kin! That'll do it. Todd Anderson's going to win this match here over Jimmy and his Gruul aggro deck. 2 games to 1. Wilderness Reclamation on display. And